hear these exit polls in the countries that come in to try to make projections on some of those states, but if they're too close, you've got to wait all night to get out. Let's head over to Ed Conway and our results centre with the very latest data. Ed?
Yeah, thanks, Danny. You can probably see that on the bottom of your screen just a moment ago. This exit poll from Florida suggesting that Hillary Clinton has taken the state. That's according to this exit poll. 48% for Hillary Clinton, 46% for Donald Trump. So close. Florida was always going to be one of those very close states. For me, one of the interesting themes of the night is actually this grey area here. That's the amount of people who are voting for other candidates, Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. Gary Johnson with the Libertarian Party and Jill Stein. This might well be the first election since 2000 when neither of the main candidates get 50% or more of the vote. Just shows you how people are driven away, potentially, from those major candidates. Let's have a look within Florida about some of those dynamics beneath the surface, because there is a kind of age story here, and then there's also a kind of race, ethnic story going on at the same time as well. Florida, of course, the Sunshine State, home to many retirees, and you can see that the older members of the population, 65 or over, tending to vote for Donald Trump. 55% don't vote for Donald Trump. But the younger they get, the more likely they are to vote for Hillary Clinton. And then we're seeing a similar dynamic across the racial ethnic backdrop as well. Just have a look. This shows you, and Florida has a large Hispanic population. Hispanic Latino population very large in Florida in comparison to other states, and 64% of them are voting, perhaps unsurprisingly, for Hillary Clinton. 84% of black voters voting for Hillary Clinton. That's down a bit on the last election when Barack Obama was re-elected, and 61% of white voters voting for Donald Trump. The other story, of course, is Pennsylvania. Tom was mentioning that just a moment ago. Let's have a look at the Pennsylvania result and just see how that's actually holding out, whether it is indeed Hillary Clinton that's going to take that state. And look, 50%. According to the exit poll, 50% vote for Hillary Clinton, 46% for Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, a crucial battleground state for Hillary Clinton and indeed for Donald Trump. They really need to win that if they want to win the election. Have a look at the way that vote was actually kind of divided in terms of the gender disparities here, because again, we're seeing an enormous disparity in terms of female voters. So 58% of female voters voting for Hillary Clinton, 43% voting for Hillary Clinton of male voters. But there's also a kind of breakdown in terms of education. Let's have a look at the education side of it. Very interesting, by the way, that we get all of this data from the exit poll in the US. It's the official exit poll. We're the only UK broadcaster to have it. It's interesting how much detail there is about who was actually voting and why. College graduates, 55% of them voted for Hillary Clinton. Now that's fascinating, because last time around it was the other way around. So it was 46% for Obama, 52% for Romney. So Romney was winning last time with college graduates. Obama was winning with those with no college degree, and it just shows you some of that kind of the debate about who is representing the white working class is actually reflected there in Pennsylvania. Let me just finish up by showing you the map as it currently stands, because we are now starting to see that populated. We did have a few more of those declarations recently, particularly those eastern seaboard states going to the Democrats over there. Kentucky, no surprise that that's gone to the Republicans, and Oklahoma over there to Republicans as well. And you can see the running tally now. Hillary Clinton is leading now in this tally, 68 electoral college votes. Remember, it's all about those electoral college votes, all about the race to 270, but we are still a long way off that. We're going to see what happens in Florida, we're going to see what happens in Pennsylvania, and that could well decide who is going to be in the White House.
Thanks, Ed. Well, CBS, you may see on the screen there, calling it too close to call in Pennsylvania and in Florida. Sky now calling it too close to call in Florida. So head to head there. Ian Woods and Siobhan Robbins are both in the state at the moment. Let's go to Ian first. Ian.
The Republican Watch Party, and they're not like what they're hearing. They didn't like what they heard when they got the results of the exit polls. Hillary Clinton had a 2% margin in a lead over Donald Trump at that stage. And the figures that are coming in now, around about 70% of the vote in Florida County are mirroring those figures. And something that was interesting from the exit poll, which I picked up upon, and this is, remember, an exit poll rather than the figures that we're getting from the results that are being released now by the Florida elections teams. But in the exit poll, 30% of the Hispanic Latino vote who supported Barack Obama 4 years ago, and that could be crucial in tipping the balance and making Hillary Clinton the winner in Florida. And of course, if she wins Florida, it's pretty much all over, unless something very surprising happens in some of the other states in the northeast of the country. We know that Donald Trump absolutely needed Florida, and judging by the figures that we're getting so far, hasn't got there.
Siobhan, Democrats looking a bit happier.
Agora a coisa está ganhando.
Yes, that's right. I'm just going to show you around this Democrat Watch Party. Go inside now. We can talk to the man this party's being held for, which is Bob Enriquez. Now, Bob, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to talk to you live on Sky News. We're getting this initial exit poll information about Florida. It looks like Hillary may have edged it. There's still a long way to go. What's your reaction at the moment? How are you feeling? Tentatively excited?
Well, absolutely. I'm certainly excited for myself because we're doing very well. But I mean, Florida is always going to be very, very close. There's a long way to go. The Panhandle, Florida closes an hour later, so those votes will come in later. And then Miami-Dade is notorious for going late into the night counting votes. And so we've got a long way to go. Obviously, it seems like it's leaning that way. Good news in other states like North Carolina, but I'd say it's too close to call. But certainly, I think if I were Hillary in the Hillary camp, which I am, I think that right now they're feeling pretty good, but they're not too comfortable.
You've got a Hispanic background yourself. How big a support did you feel there was in Florida from the Hispanic community?
Well, it's huge. I mean, you look at the numbers, and she's winning something like 65 to 30, 30 or so, or something like that, somewhere in the, at least by 30 to 35 points in the Hispanic community. And not only that, we saw that record numbers of newly registered Hispanic voters were coming out, both in Hillsborough County, 30 to 35%, more than in 2012. And we've seen that in Miami-Dade, we've seen it in Broward, we've seen it throughout the state. And certainly in I-4 corridor, and particularly Orlando, with the Puerto Rican vote, that's huge. And that may actually be the difference that carries her to victory in Florida, and then ultimately that would be victory as the next president of the United States.
If Trump loses here, what do you think it will have been that lost it for him? Because everyone we've been speaking to so far has been really quite evenly matched.
Right. Well, I think that's very difficult. If you want to be in a swing state like ours, that's truly, as they say, purple, okay? That you need to appeal to a large base of Hispanics, of women, of working class folks, many different ethnicities. It looks like the United States, it looks like the world. You have to appeal. You can't start out by alienating a quarter of the electorate, and obviously the Hispanic vote is motivated. Some of the things he said about women, some of the things he said about African Americans, other things, those things are all coming back to haunt him in these swing states.
Thanks very much indeed, and we still have it there, guys saying Florida too close to call. So stick with us, we'll tell you as soon as it flips over into results of one sort or another. All results getting very tight tonight. Of course, the results are almost like 40 million votes cast around the nation today. Kate Burley is speaking to some of those who've been voting, and she's with them right now.
I certainly am, Jeremy. Thank you. I'm decided to take my life in my hands and stay here with the pizza, even though I've got my white coat on. We are just at Wall Street, a couple of 100 metres away. This is Wall Street Seoul, where people who work in the city come and hang out for a bit afterwards, in the way of the workers, and we're free to have a bit of a chat. So, hi, I'm on Sky News. Can I ask you which way you voted?
Sorry?
Can I ask you which way you voted?
I couldn't vote because I am not a citizen of
And if you could, which way would you vote?
I'll go for Hillary for sure.
Okay, why?
She seems to be better of both, in terms of principles, in terms of ensuring that, life is equal, and then, not maintaining any disparity in terms of treatment.
Okay, thank you. What about you, sir? Who would you have voted for? Round of applause for that one.
Hillary,
Because?
but more reasonable than what other choice we got. Very simply, that is the choice question more than anything else.
Okay, thank you, sir. Which way would you have voted? Have you voted?
No.
Which way would you have voted?
Hillary?
Because?
Yeah, I find her, she has a political background and she knows what she's doing.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody would have voted for Trump? No. Okay. So that's what we think there. What about this table over here? Wow, this pizza looks amazing, I have to say. That would be very kind of you, but I'm not. Can I sit you. So you voted.
I did. Jill Stein.
Oh,
Green Party.
okay. Yeah, absolutely. Why?
Because I don't like the two major candidates, and I feel third party needs a bigger voice, and they should be in discussions, and they should be up more in the media, because you can't go between just black and white. You know, politics has a rainbow of colors, and you need multiple choices to look at.
So it wasn't a protest vote, you would always have voted green?
Yes. I'm also an environmentalist, even though I'm terrible at it. I live in New York, obviously. But yeah, you know, and she had a lot of valid points that she brought up. How media was very scrutinizing her and really trying to make her, you know, stumble on her words. Same with Gary Johnson. It's unfair.
But they weren't part of the debate, but they managed to get at least 15% of the polling. So it is always a protest vote, isn't it?
I don't like to call it a protest vote. It's actually just bringing more awareness to the third party more than a protest. Because to just have the two choices just seems trivial and it seems a bit like patronizing to the people.
Okay. What about you guys? Anybody else got any thoughts? Madam? I asked you just as you put pizza in your mouth, didn't I? So I'll wander around. That'll give you just a second to try and eat it. How are we doing? Are you there? Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I voted for Hillary.
Because?
Well, it was kind of a strategic decision. So if you look at the statistics, the likelihood of winning is proper Hillary. And of the two, being a minority myself and looking at leadership for the country across the world, I prefer someone that seems like they're for, at the end of the day, I don't feel like it's politics anymore. I think it's humanity at the end of the day. And that's kind of where I went.
And if we have President Trump, how would you feel about that?
I would be pretty disenfranchised as a fellow American being a minority here. I think a lot of it's still the same sentiment. And that's kind of why I chose, despite a lot of his premises that get fucked, despite a lot of his sides I agree with, overall as a human being I can't side with his beliefs and how he views people.
Nice stuff. I'll let you get back to your pizza. That is the biggest pizza, guys, I have ever seen in my life. Yeah, I'm sure it is. We'll be back for that in just a second. But thank you very much indeed for that. Thanks a lot. I'm just going to head back into this bar where we were chatting to some of the bankers a little bit earlier on. Come with me, Jay. Sorry, don't get in the way of the workers. Which way did you vote? Did you vote? There you go. Let's wander in. We'll see you guys here at the end. Hi! Hi, am I the guy? Which way did you vote, can I ask you?
Which way did I vote?
Yeah.
So I ended up writing in the candidate. I wrote in my boss. His name is Vishak.
Okay, why?
Because I felt I had to choose between a racist and a murderer. And I really couldn't make a concrete decision.
Okay. Racist to the murderer. Allegedly. Okay, what about you, sir?
Trump.
Because?
I don't like Hillary at all.
Okay. What do you like about Trump?
That he doesn't lie. Hillary's a liar.
Okay. And you think that everything that Mr. Trump says is the God's honest truth?
No, but that's part of politics. So.
What if you wake up in the morning and it's President Clinton? How do you feel about
Isso, mano. Amanhã vai estocar, o cara tomou numa ceva de boa lá, velho.
That kind of protect us. That's why we have three branches of government. So I think we'll be fine.
Okay, just short. Thanks very much for staying. So we're just going to move around here and give you an idea of what's going on in this bar. You know what? Having spoken to two people in this bar who are obviously pretty relaxed, I don't think I'm going to talk to anymore just for now. What we are going to do is we're going to head up town a little bit to where the parties are, and I'm going to probably have a go at ice skating. What do you think? Send me a tweet and let me know what you think at Kay Burley. 10 years since I did it, but I think I might. Jeremy, what do you think? Should I go ice skating or not? Am I skating on tonight?
No, I think anybody that goes down to that pizza place, you should buy them dinner, really, Kay. It's only fair. Let's head off to one of the stations where the folks are just closed. Pennsylvania, our man there in Johnstown. Markstone. Hi, Mark.
Evening, Jeremy. It is looking as though it could be Clinton's night here in Pennsylvania. We've got an exit poll. It is just that. It puts Clinton at 50%, Donald Trump at 46%. But within that
all the US networks are still saying that this state is too close to call. In a sense, the political geography here replicates that of the whole nation. You've got the big populous cities on the west and the east, the democratic strongholds. It's places like this in the centre of the state where things become a little bit more complicated. Let's take a look. We're at the bar of the Holiday Inn. This is the social focal point of this town on a daily basis. I'll just interrupt these guys. Excuse me, guys. Can we just have a show of hands? Who voted for Trump here? There we go. So that's 3 for Trump. And the rest of you for Clinton? Okay. Interesting. I just want to bring in a guy who we met a couple of nights ago. This is Jerry. Jerry Lee. How you doing, Jerry? Jerry works for one of the local steel firms here. Steel, of course, this country, this town was once the heart of the steel industry. Not so much anymore. It's limping a bit. But Jerry's firm's still doing pretty well. But the convention would suggest that many steel workers are going to go to Donald Trump, have gone for Donald Trump. You haven't, have you?
I voted for Hillary.
And why is that?
Well, it's also personal values. I mean, she does have a better health philosophy. Of course, I have my 2 children, and she has a better woman personality. So I got to vote for my wife too.
But it's true, isn't it? The proportion of steel workers, even some in your plant, which, because it's owned your plant by a Swedish company, it might not do so well under Donald Trump. His plans for not that keen on globalisation, and yet within your plant, still people for whom Donald Trump has resonated.
Yes, I'm sorry to say there have been ideas that are still voting for Trump in our plant. I honestly can't understand why. I mean, you've got to vote for your job, you've got to work and vote for your paycheck, and Hillary's going to be the one who can pull that out.
Jerry Lee, thank you very much. Just before we go, we'll wander down here. I want to introduce you to somebody else. He's a local businessman. He sums up the complexities here, really, because he was a Republican, and now he is a Democrat. Joey Dell, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Joey is a local caterer here. No prizes for guessing who you voted for.
Exactly, and I'm proud of it.
Tell me why.
Well, because I think it's time for a change. I think he's the man to do it.
He's never run for office, he's not a politician, he's a businessman.
Exactly, and that's what we need to turn the country around. So, hopefully he wins.
The exit polls here in Pennsylvania are suggesting that Hillary Clinton's got 50% in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump 46%, which would suggest, if they're right, that he's not done so well here. If he doesn't win the election, how does Clinton, if she's winner, whoever wins, how do they bring this country back together again? It's very divided, isn't it?
It sure is. I have to figure something out because the course we're on now surely isn't going to get done.
Just tell me how you square the fact that you were once a very passionate Democrat, and now you're a Republican.
Right. But mainly so I can vote for Donald Trump. I would like to.
Joey Dell, thank you very much indeed. So there we are. 2 views here, a steel worker who is not going for Trump, he's absolutely going for Clinton. And one of the things we've really noticed here is that although people outside of America may think that Donald Trump is not the man because he is not somebody who perhaps is a world leader, people are voting on local issues, very much so. And here in the steel-working towns of central Pennsylvania, it is local issues that resonate. That is why for some, Donald Trump and the change he's offering is the man, but he's clearly not the man for everyone if those exit polls are to be believed.
Mark, thank you very much indeed.
Always confronted great challenges, and so too has our people. And yet in each generation, Americans have stepped forward to confront their challenges and embrace their opportunities. And now the time has come for us to do the same. I believe with all my heart that if we do what needs to be done in the years to come, that my children and yours will be the freest and the most prosperous Americans that have ever lived. But we must start now. For while we still have time to get this right, we do not have forever. I will close by saying that while I have the belief that the decisions we make in government are important, I know that in the end, America will not be saved by politicians. I hope that we as a nation will return to our roots as a people and as a nation, respecting our diversity, but understanding that ultimately what unites us as a people is the common dream and the common hope of a better life, and that we can only achieve that if we all achieve that. And I hope that God gives me the opportunity and the voice to move forward. And I'll close with this. I hope this nation tonight, irrespective of the outcome of the president, that we will all say a prayer for our great country. Because as the ancient words of Scripture tell us, unless the Lord build the house, they labor in vain to build. And unless the Lord guard the city in vain, does the guard keep watch. Let us work together. God bless this great nation. Thank you for the opportunity to continue to serve. God bless all of you. And God bless Florida. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Marco Rubio retaining his Senate seat in Florida quite comfortably, despite the closeness of the presidential election. And a man we sense that we may well see again having another go at running for the Republican ticket sometime in the future. Let's look at how the Florida presidential race is shaping up. And we have 91% of the votes in. Donald Trump with 49%. Hillary Clinton 47.9%. Others 3.1%, so there's other people on the ticket. That is mighty close, and Ian Woods is in Tampa. What do you make of that, Ian?
1% in terms, it certainly is quite close in terms of the number of votes separate. It's about 110,000, and that sounds like a very significant figure when you're in the final part of the counter and you've only got less than 10% of the votes left to count. But what we should say is that quite a lot of votes which still haven't come in yet come from big population centers where the Democrats traditionally do very well, where Hillary Clinton is already trying up a big lead. So this race isn't over by any means, but boy, is it close. I'm at a Republican watch party, and Cooper Cullen is one of the Republican Party workers who's been gathering here to watch the results come in. What do you make of it as you're watching it?
It's a really close race so far, but I'm confident Donald Trump is very in Florida.
Still too close to call in Florida. That's a big state for him. 29 electoral votes there as well, same as in New York. Let's bring in Patricia Capter, economics and global affairs analyst. Hello to you. Talk to us about the economical scenarios, depending on whether Mr. Trump or Mr. Clinton wins.
Well, of course, if Clinton wins, she's a no, and markets really like the no. So that's why we saw the major indices all close up today, because the feeling is that she really has the momentum now going into this election. If Trump wins, however, all bets are off, because that is a complete unknown, and you're likely going to see serious sell-offs. But I should point out that there's a big difference, though, between what's good for the market and really the long-term economic challenges that the United States faces.
Okay, so explain that to us in more detail.
But when you take a look at the economic forces that have been at play at this election, you really see a lot of parallels that really drove the Brexit vote as well. You have large swathes of Americans who are suffering from job insecurity. Their incomes still haven't recovered to the levels before the Great Recession hit. They have pensions insecurity. They have barriers to upward mobility in the form of really expensive university tuition fees. And when you put all of these things together, and especially throw in widening income inequality, what you have is a large sector of the electorate that feel disenfranchised, they feel cut off, and they feel voiceless in the democratic process.
So Trump was pretty smart, drawing parallels with Brexit.
Absolutely, he was smart, because what you saw at play in the Brexit vote was that anti-establishment backlash. And really, Trump has been playing to that in this election. He's been promising to deport undocumented workers. He's been promising to tear up trade deals that have cost millions of American jobs. And this is really resonating with America's middle classes, because so many Americans without a college education are nostalgic for those days when factory jobs provided middle-class America with job security, steady jobs. And I should point out that back then they paid well above the minimum. They paid well above what the median job income was. That's no longer the case, and it's really not clear whether it's even possible to turn back the clock, even if you bring those manufacturing jobs back.
Now, what about these young people here? Many of them too young to vote. Older people we've seen skating on thin ice as well. What about trade in Mr. Trump wins?
Okay, well, obviously, if Trump wins, it's going to send ripples through the whole trade deals. He's promised to rip up trade deals. But again, a lot of Americans keep saying that if you rip up those trade deals, it will bring back manufacturing jobs. But many economists, in fact, the majority of economists believe that that's not the case. If you rip up those trade deals, you could, in fact, end up throwing millions of Americans out of work who work in exporting industries that export goods abroad. But a lot of Americans do want a fairer playing field. Don't forget, a lot of trade agreements, including NAFTA, they did have provisions in NAFTA to bring up labor standards in Mexico. And while they were enforced for a while, they really slackened off in the last decade.
Women, let's talk about women, depending on which candidate wins.
Okay, well, absolutely. Of course, Hillary has the women vote. But I should point out, it's not just because she's a woman. You have to understand that the position that many women are in this country Of course, we do have a gender wage gap here. Women earn 80 cents to every dollar a man makes in the United States. And that really galls many American women. You have to understand that 40% of U.S. households, the primary breadwinner are women. And many of those households are single-parent households. And you add into that as well that women are also told an economic shock when they have children. There's no federally mandated maternity leave in this country, which is unbelievable. It is absolutely unbelievable. Women are penalized for procreating in this country. Now, Hillary Clinton has promised to close the gender wage gap, or to do what she can to close the gender wage gap. Of course, that takes Congress. She's also promised to try to institute policies for family leave so women don't get penalized when they have a baby or need time off to take care of a sick child or a sick parent. Now, I should point out that Trump also promised to close the gender wage gap and work for family leave, but of course he's lost a lot of credibility with women because of the comments that he's made.
I've had a thought going back to the market. They've factored in a Hillary win. If she does, will they tank tomorrow?
Odds are yes. I mean, I don't like to make predictions, but the one thing that we do know the markets hate more than anything is the unknown. And if it's a Trump victory, that is a massive unknown.
Thanks very much indeed. Thanks, Bob. So I did promise to you a little bit earlier on that what I would probably do is go on the ice. Now, I have been on the ice for something like 10 years. You know what? My producer Emily said I could go on as long as I only did it at the end. I need to hand that microphone over, and I'm going to skate off by sunset, and I'll see you in about an hour, or I might be in A&E, or whatever the equivalent is here. Let's give it a go. Bye, Jeremy.
Hi, Kay. Okay, girl, you'll catch me doing that among the Sundays. Well, will we ever see Kay again? Stay tuned to find out. Right now, I think we ought to head over to ENCOM where the results centre. One thing that I'm sure will intrigue you is the fact that the early results and the early predictions, let's say, are already starting to play into the money markets a bit, particularly the Mexican peso, extending losses to nearly 4% there.
Yeah, that's right. Kate Taylor, that wasn't she skated off about the fact that Wall Street had been betting on Clinton's victory. And one of the main metrics for that is what has happened recently over the course of the last few months to the Mexican peso. This expectation that if Trump is going to win, that's bad for the peso. Now, have a look at this. This is a chart of the US dollar versus the peso. Actually, anything going up like that shows the peso weakness. It's basically US dollar strength versus the Mexican peso. And there was a very sharp, this is just over the course of the last few minutes, a very sharp fall indeed in the Mexican peso, down by about 5% over the course of the last trading session. So an enormous fall by any standards in a currency. You might remember what happened on June the 23rd when the Brexit vote happened. The pound fell very sharply. What we're seeing now is a chart that bears some resemblance to that, except this time it's the Mexican peso, and this time it's concerned that if Donald Trump does indeed become president, then what happens to US-Mexican relations after that, particularly if he's going to build that wall. So markets reacting to what's happening in those numbers versus the exit poll. But let's have a look at what that exit poll is telling us about the broader national picture, because there are some interesting details when we look down about precisely who was voting and who was voting for who. Now, let's go through the map. Take this. This shows you across the US, so it's across the entire US. We've been looking at states so far. This shows you who men were voting for and who women were voting for. And Hillary Clinton, perhaps unsurprisingly, has 54% of the female vote. But last time, Obama was at 55%. Donald Trump was last time, Republicans last time was at 52%, and now he's 50%. So what you're seeing is that for both of the main candidates, actually, they're dropping off in terms of support both from men and women, and we're seeing this grey area here, the votes for the third-party candidates, Harry Johnson, Jill Stein. They are the ones that are increasing across the US, and it's not just that we see that when it comes to sex, it's also that we see that when it comes to age as well. This shows you different age groups and who they were voting for. Remember, again, this is exit poll data today. This is today, well, I should say yesterday's data. And again, the same picture is becoming apparent. Hillary Clinton, as you'd expect, winning with younger voters, and Donald Trump winning with older voters. But have a look in particular at those younger voters, and again, have a look at the grey. Have a look at the fact that they are voting in significant numbers when it comes to 18 to 29-year-olds for those other candidates. It was interesting just seeing an hour ago or so, trying to find someone who had actually voted for either Clinton or Trump, and struggling because other people are voting for other candidates this time around. Finally, one of those other one of the other ways of looking at things, the other kind of demographic, is having a look at the race, the ethnic backdrop in the US. And here again, you see the same pattern. What you certainly do see, though, is Hillary Clinton winning with black voters, not as much as Obama. He had 93% back in 2012. Hispanics, she had 65% in this time around, and less again than last time around. And also for Trump. Last time, Republicans got about 59% of the white vote. This time it's 55%. Now, as I'm speaking, we're starting to get more and more data through, and the markets are reacting to that. Since I was talking just a moment ago, the peso has fallen even further. We showed you that chart just a moment ago. I don't know if I can kind of bring that back on. That was, one of those the biggest falls that we've seen recently. There was that big fall in the peso. Have a look at this. That number last time we looked at that number there, the percentage change was about 5%. Now, 8%. The peso down by 8% in a single trading session against the dollar. Investors out there getting very concerned that they made the wrong bets. They were betting on Hillary Clinton. It might well be Donald Trump.
Intriguing thought. Thanks very much, Ed. Let's bring in our panel here. Todd Donovan's still with us. I'm delighted to introduce Republican political strategist Jano Caldwell and former campaign advisor to Hillary Clinton, General Green. So, Jimbo, let's start with you. What have you made of it so far? I mean, it's still pretty close, pretty neck to neck.
It's always going to be close. I think one of the great things about the team that was running the Clinton campaign is that they said from the very beginning they were not going to take anything for granted. They were always going to run like they were running from behind. And the reality is, it's been 238 years. We've never had a woman as president in the White House. This was never going to be easy. So it is going to come down to the last vote, the last state, and the reason you prepare and put together the ground operation of the Clinton campaign is for this exact situation.
I mean, is it fair to say that it was easier for America to elect an African American than it was a woman then?
Well, certainly men have the right to vote before women did, and that's just the reality. This is a significant change that we would see with Hillary Clinton, and there have been many, let's say, interruptions in this campaign. Certainly the FBI injection several times, I would say inappropriately, has had an impact when you saw the polls go in a completely different direction with the first letter. And then when Director Comey said, oh, never mind, nothing there, that had an impact, and there were not enough days to kind of rebound from that.
Jano, do you accept that it's Hillary Clinton's presidency? Is she going to walk it, or do you think Donald Trump's still out there fighting?
Well, I mean, I think no one can come to that conclusion when we look at the numbers purely. We see that Florida, Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, and Georgia, Donald Trump is currently ahead. So no one can call this race for what it is. And I appreciate Jamu's sentiment on Hillary Clinton's campaign saying that they were going to look for every vote. And that's truly, she had said that. So I admit that, I concede that. However, Democrats haven't largely conceded that. They said that it was going to be a landslide. And Donald Trump, what we see here, especially with this, as close as this race has been, where we have this secret, maybe secret Donald Trump vote where people may not say that they're voting for Donald Trump. Maybe that's actually something that does exist. In addition to that fact, he's definitely overperformed in some areas. Where this is end at the end of the night, I don't think we have an idea. We're going to let time play out. Hillary Clinton definitely can win this thing, and as it looked, Donald Trump is in this race, and he could possibly win.
Certainly there are Republicans who think if they'd have had a different candidate, a better candidate maybe, that they would have walked.
no question if it was a Marco Rubio, somebody who kind of has that consistency, young, vibrant, but sometimes change, interruption, these things happen. And Donald Trump, I think, one of the things that most Republicans would agree on is his lack of consistency at times, just kind of jumping out there and maybe putting his foot in his mouth. And that's been a problem. I mean,
whilst we're talking, let me show you the latest graphic from North Carolina, and it suggests that Donald Trump has got a nose in front after 75% of the votes in there, 49.4 to 48. You starting to get anxious, Jamu?
No, I'm not. Because for Donald Trump to win, he has to be perfect tonight. He has to run the board. And that's where this election comes down to.
The Cubs came back.
The Democrat, and certainly, Hillary Clinton as the Democratic nominee has an easier path to 70. Donald Trump, in this last year and a half, when has he been perfect? So he can win Florida, and he can still lose the election. He can win Ohio, and he can still lose the election. He has to take something away from her, and we haven't seen that yet.
No, I mean, and there is definitely a smaller path, but kind of to your earlier point in terms of it being harder for her to be elected, that's not simply because she's a woman, it's simply because her career has been scandal-ridden for 30 plus years. And we can be honest about it. Right, so we know that that is the case.
No, her career has not been dishonest or scandal.
Hardly a driven snow.
We can campaign on either side, wasn't it? Analysis. This isn't like a partisan attack. The simple fact is people voted, the ones that voted for, a large degree of them voted against Trump, not for Hillary Clinton. That's why the enthusiasm numbers among African Americans have been so low. They weren't excited about
the Washington Post.
Standing up.
The Washington Post has a poll out there that shows that Donald Trump is the candidate that since 1980, he is the candidate that voters are least likely to be voting for him versus against his opponent, where he's at 41%. And that's very low. Hillary was higher than that. So there actually is enthusiasm, but there's a narrative that's been going on in this campaign that is just actually wrong. When you look at what happened today when women were going to vote and then walking up to Susan B. Anthony's gravesite to put their stickers on and really understanding the historical significance, one of the things that really angers me is that the media, the narrative has been trying to take away the historical significance of a woman becoming president of the United States. And today, that was reversed. And so I think as these numbers come in, you will start to see that.
We'll see. I mean, it's possible, and I can see
episode 2 to follow. let Todd have a quick say.
We started off with, are we surprised that it's close? I'm, somebody who digs around in the data here, I'm surprised that some of this thing is still so close. But that said, you mentioned Trump's overperformance on demographics. One that we haven't talked about, and it is somewhat surprising, he's doing better among white evangelicals than McCain did, than Romney did, or Bush did. And I don't know what that says about either candidates, because he's not the poster child of the kind of candidate you'd expect evangelicals to warm up of this race. No, and he's running stronger in that demographic.
Johnny KOSPI there. That's a good call. Right, I'm just going to say, New Hampshire, Sky saying too close to schools. That's another one. Yeah. And we have a whole raft of key states that are still too close to schools.
They're called swing states.
I know.
That's true, but I got word.
I hear the bell in the bellwether.
I got word from the Republican National Committee senior officials there, and they're actually sending out a team to Florida because they're going to challenge it if it doesn't hit.
I can see a plate full of lawyers right now. Thank you. We'll be back in a minute. Here, let's head to Washington, D.C. and Adam.
Yes, Jeremy, indeed. As you say, North Carolina, Michigan, New Hampshire, even Wisconsin now, all looking extremely close. And if you add Florida as well, in most of them, Donald Trump is just a nose ahead. As counting goes on, of course, it could turn round. Well, I'm joined now by Brad Blakeman, former political advisor to George W. Bush. What do you make of it all? I mean, it looks possible that what everyone was talking about, that sort of clean sweep across the board of gains by Donald Trump, is game on.
It's amazing. And
He's been outspent by millions, tens of millions of dollars. And Hillary's ground game, something that they've talked about forever, the Clinton ground game is something we've never seen before, hasn't really materialized against Trump, who has been lean and mean, and it's mostly been him, and relying on local organizations. So the tale is being told that the local organizations are really coming out and working for Trump.
As you say, it's been quite mean. I mean, if America is split down the middle like this on the knife edge, what does it tell us about the middle of the country?
Well, it's a divided country, that's for sure. And the real challenge for the next president is to unite our country. That is going to be the challenge starting tomorrow, if this is decided by tomorrow. Because a president can't lead unless the country is behind them. And also, we don't know the makeup of the Senate or the lower house, which is also going to be a major factor in how a president governs. So there's a lot of things that have to be answered that may not be answered by tomorrow.
I mean, we know there's been one pickup by the Democrats in the Senate. They're very annoyed. But elsewhere, it looks as if whether or not they're going to take control of the Senate is in the air, and they're clearly not going to take control of the House. So that could mean we have Republicans across the board.
Right, and if Trump is given the fortune of having the keys to the kingdom, not only the executive branch, but the legislative branch and the judiciary, then what he's told the American public about the generational change he wants to bring is more possible than ever. And I think the American people want change. We want change the way your country want to change, radical change. The question is, can Donald Trump deliver what he promised? That's the challenge.
What's your answer to that question?
I think he can. I really do. I think if he is fortunate enough to get the White House, not being a political person, being a businessman, he's a bottom line guy. He fixes things that are broken. If anybody can do it because he doesn't have the political baggage that others have, I think he can do it.
There would be some who'd say what he's actually going to try and do is fix the country by turning the clock back. Is that fair?
No, I don't think so. Look, Obamacare is a disaster. We got to get rid of that. We got to fix healthcare. We're spending too much money. We have a huge deficit. Obama doubled the deficit. We're at $20 trillion. We have a weakened military. We have a foreign policy that's a disaster. So it's all about turning the clock ahead.
Well, all right, let's take some of those. Let's take Obamacare. Can you fix Obamacare and keep those people with healthcare who were brought into the net by the change?
I think what Donald Trump suggested is the only way to take it, and that is there has to be a grace period before we change to something else so that people are just not dropped automatically. And Donald Trump's talking about a marketplace healthcare system. I live in Virginia. I have two choices for healthcare. There are hundreds of insurance companies. Let's let insurance companies sell across state lines. That will bring prices down because of competition. There's incentives that can be given to families. These are the kinds of marketplace solutions that I think will be the replacement for Obamacare.
And let's talk about foreign policy. You say the foreign policy situation is broken. If tomorrow we have President Trump or President-elect Trump, he says he's got a plan for Syria, but he hasn't told us about it. Have you got any idea what it is?
Well, I think that what Trump needs to do is he needs to hire up his staff. He has to figure out who's going to serve him at very high levels, come up with a plan. I don't think Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton has considered a plan. You can't have one until you have the ability to hire up experts and get the kinds of briefings you're not entitled to now. One thing is for sure, and I believe Donald Trump has the right solution. We need to create safe zones for Syrian refugees in their own homelands, and that means the Arabs have to pitch in and provide places of sanctuary so that they can return eventually to their country.
Well, they are doing that,
but not in the kinds of numbers that they should be doing.
About 4 million refugees.
Yeah, but they shouldn't be sending them around the world. They should keep them in their part of the world, because why should they be displaced from their homeland? They should be able to go back to a state and secure land that is their home.
But that would require restoring peace of some kind.
Exactly, and that's going to take some time. But stability is the main focus, I would think, of the Trump administration. We have to stabilize the region before we have long-term solutions.
And what does this say, do you think, about, well, it used to talk about the war of the sexes, the gender balance, that the best qualified woman so far to run the presidency, the only woman from the presidency, has been beaten by a man who clearly disrespects women from what we know from his private life.
I think Donald Trump certainly regrets the statements he made. The statements he made against women, I believe, is not the character of the man who's going to be president. Bill Clinton was the worst violator of that. He was a sitting president. He was impeached, but not removed. And I think Donald Trump will do fabulously well with women. Why? It's because he's relied on them in his business life. I think he's going to rely on them and bring them to government.
Finally, here we are. We don't know which way it's going. Do you think it is now more or less likely that we're going to have Donald Trump?
As we see the states come in the numbers, it's, I think, a 50-50 bet right now that Trump could be the next president. And as we see Florida and North Carolina come in, if they come into Trump, it gets more and more likely. But right now, it's not the blowout the Democrats thought it was going to be. If anything, it's raging close.
That is certainly the case. Thank you very much indeed. Well, from Washington, back to you in Times Square.
Thanks, Adam. So what about the latest reaction from the candidates' teams and their camps? They've both set up camps within about a mile of each other here in Manhattan. The defensive camp is Greg Milan, and with the Trump campaign, Hannah Thomas Peter. Hannah, what's happening down there?
Care about pop up on the big screen behind me. Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa, Michigan, Virginia. There is this sense that actually, although the momentum might have been swinging towards Hillary Clinton, it's not a done deal at all. What they are hoping in Trump's camp is that he has actually inspired white working class people across America to turn up to polls in never before seen numbers, new voters to engage with the political process for the first time. They are hoping that that has happened and is being borne out in these very close races in Hillary Clinton's big blue wall up there in the north, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio and so on, but also in that crucial state of Florida. But they're also hoping for something else that they've secretly been looking for all along, and Donald Trump has alluded to this at his rallies in the right kind of states, which is that, you know, women are not single issues voters. They don't always vote on reproductive rights or on the fact that a particular candidate has insulted them and other women along the way. They care about national security and jobs. Latinos aren't single issues voters either. Hispanic voters in this country, as many of them have told me, as I've got to rallies, have been in towns and cities across America, legal Latinos have come up to me and said, we are patriots, we care about our country, we care about jobs and the economy more than anything else. Now, all of those points are things that have been kind of swirling in the background for Donald Trump. Yes, the headline is that he hopes that white working class men in particular will have turned out in droves to push him over the line. But they have also desired that his message will have kind of leaked through the headlines, broken into headlines, and started persuading women and Latino voters in enough numbers to make a difference.
Hannah, thanks very much indeed. Let's pop down to the Clinton camp at the Javits Center and catch up with Greg Milan. Greg?
Yeah, I think the complete inverse of what's happening at the Trump HQ is happening here. A lot of confidence early in the evening from those close to Hillary Clinton, those in the camp. And you have to say in the last hour or so they remain reasonably confident that this is still very early and that as more and more of those percentages go up, that some of these states that are up for grabs will fall to their camp. But there's a real nervousness on the floor here, I've got to say. That's a pretty empty cheers when some of the more obvious places Hillary Clinton you'd expect to win is confirmed as winning, but they're looking very anxiously at Florida, at North Carolina, at Virginia, a place that they didn't believe they'd be looking nervously at, and they are right now. Before you talk about Ohio and Pennsylvania and Michigan, they believe still, the campaign certainly believes still, that this is going to be their night, and they look out west to Nevada and Colorado, possibly Arizona, and that big vote amongst the Hispanics. We know that the registration has gone up amongst Latino voters, and they believe that will later in the night, when those results come in, will be a very good sign for them. But there is a concern about those states in the east and the northeast, those ones where Trump has apparently turned down a lot of white rural voters, where Hillary Clinton has struggled to mobilize the coalition that Barack Obama managed to back in 2008. Doesn't seem to have generated that enthusiasm. As I say, on the floor, they're worried as they watch what's happening with these percentages going up, the amount of voters in, and still she's behind. The campaign campaign. It seems they're still confident. We're told Hillary Clinton is working on the speech, or maybe two speeches, the winner's speech, the concession speech, at a hotel not far from here with her family around her. But they're watching actively, you can be sure of that.
Greg, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Let's zip down the length of the eastern seaboard and pick up the story in Florida now, where saying the vote is simply neck and neck, two votes to call, Inwards and Siobhan Robbins there in either side of Tampa with the two different party supporters there. So Ian, with the Republicans, what's the mood? How are they feeling about it?
They're feeling very good indeed. They're feeling an awful lot better than they did a couple of hours ago when the exit poll was suggesting that Hillary Clinton had a 2 percentage point lead in the exit poll, but the real votes are the ones which count. And so far, over the last hour, we've been expecting the gap between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, which was initially around about 100,000 votes, with 91% of the vote in. We were expecting that gap to narrow. Donald Trump is now ahead by almost 150,000 votes, and you kind of wonder where Hillary Clinton is going to get those extra votes that she needs to bring herself level again. So it looks to me as if it is heading for a Donald Trump victory in Florida, but at the moment it's still too early and still too close to call. Let's talk to some of the campaigners who are here. This is Emma, who's been working hard for a Trump victory. Do you think you've got a Trump victory?
Oh yes, absolutely. I believe he'll win Florida. Hands down.
Expecting this at the beginning of the day.
Yes, absolutely. We've worked very hard. They say all the time that we don't have a ground game. They are completely wrong. Because I'm a precinct committee woman in Hillsborough County. We put together a program, and our neighbors, when we call them and tell them we're going to walk on Saturday, we have a dozen people show up at my house. They're all on board.
What is motivating them to get on this support? What are the big things that are getting people out of it?
Well, a lot. It's a very big mixture of people that were for other candidates. Remember, there were 17 candidates, so it's a big tent. It's a lot of people. But the number one thing is we do not want Hillary Clinton in the White House. That is the number one motivation.
You see the results from other parts of the country as well. What do you think is happening from other see President Trump?
I believe Trump will win. I really do. Because if you look at how many percentage are actually reporting, then you have hope. If it's less than 50% and he's down by 2 points, he can win.
Thank you very much indeed for talking to us. We still got some time to go before we can actually call for it. And who knows, it might be so close that an automatic recount is triggered, but at the moment, it's not that close. Donald Trump is heading.
Thanks, Ian. Let's head across town to the Democrat camp, and Siobhan Robbins is there. What are they saying?
Well, just have a look behind you, Jeremy. You can see by the numbers left in this bar the reaction to what's going on here tonight. We can have a chat to one of the Democrats who's left in the bar here. This is Will Rhodes. Will, speak up for us, but you voted Democrat. How are you feeling about these polls at the moment in Florida?
Well, they're a little disappointing in Florida right now. Obviously, about 5% left, so it could theoretically shift the other way. But at this point, we're not looking at the battleground states. It's pretty early in the night. You know, see how the West Coast goes. Pretty hopeful over there for sure.
They were saying here in Hillsborough County, 19 out of 20 times they picked the president. So if Florida goes to Trump, does that make you nervous?
Well, Hillsborough County went for Hillary, and Florida's kind of a big, very unusually diverse state. And if you look at Miami, you look at Hillsborough County, where Tampa's located, you know, we had a lot of younger voters, a lot of colleges, stuff like that, and they kind of shifted towards Hillary, and you know, a lot of the other regions in Florida definitely ideologically and politically aligned with Trump's beliefs. So I can see why this is a battleground state, and why even if we lose the state to Trump, I'm still hopeful in some of the battlegrounds as far as polling is concerned.
I feel like you're putting a positive spin on it. Is that fair at the moment, or are you just, you know, keeping it out?
A little bit of both. I mean, you got to spin it. It's you know, a loss is a loss. You want a victory in every state, especially these important critical states. And Florida has been so important in the last few elections. It's hard to not notice that, but it's as recent fluidity, and I've only been down here a few years, and I'm really up north. You know, I definitely want to see the state move in the direction that I'd like to see it. So
down there in Florida, interesting what the candidates are doing themselves. The Trump's watching their presidential running mate as well, alongside Donald Trump and all the Trump family around, watching here in New York, which is the results or the calls so far. Not that many results, mainly predictions and projections on a big screen. And incidentally, I'm just hearing that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are working on her nominee speech as they watch the results come in at a suite just down the road from the Trumps in the Peninsula Hotel. And apparently, apart from Bill and Hillary, Chelsea Clinton's there with her husband Mark Lewinsky and their children Charlotte and Aiden. Hillary Clinton's two grandchildren, Charlotte wearing a dress with the Aiden logo on her. Nothing less. Let's have a look at the latest close calls here. Florida, how's it shaking up? And with 94% of the votes in Donald Trump, 49.2%, Hillary Clinton, 47.7%, so 1.5 in it there. And interestingly, other candidates like Gary Johnson and Jill Stein winning over 3.1% of the votes, which may, of course, be making it difficult for the main two candidates. Let's go to North Carolina next. And North Carolina, we have 75% of the votes in Donald Trump. Again, a nose in front, 49.4 against Hillary Clinton, 48 there with other candidates, 2.6. And Virginia, still too close to call. This is how it looks after 79% of the votes in. And Donald Trump, 47.7, Hillary Clinton, 47.2. Others much bigger there, 5.1%. Our panel's still here, Timo and Giano, and Todd, first to you. What are your vibes you're picking up from all this information?
Well, I think we're now actually getting the vote counts coming in fast. In the time it took you to read those, we got another 1% in Virginia.
Give it to me. Has it changed?
It hasn't changed, but as more of these come in, there's less space for it to move. So, Florida, we went from 91% to 95%. It went from a 70,000 vote margin to like 130,000 vote margin. So Trump trying to advantage Trump, but with far fewer votes left to come in. And the exit polls were updated. They weigh these and readjust those. The exit poll that had a little bit of an edge for Clinton is down 48-48 in Florida. So there's less space there for Clinton to catch up. I'm not saying that she can't, but there's still votes to be counted in Democrats.
So Gianna, a Republican yourself, if that followed through and he won Florida, North Carolina, and Virginia, how good would you be feeling about that?
I think that there's a strong chance that he could pull it off, but at the same time, we know that anything can happen on an election night. You can't count a win until there's an absolute win. Until someone hits that magic 270 electoral votes, you don't know. But I think this scenario has taught many people who projected it out for Hillary Clinton, and maybe even some Trump supporters, if he doesn't win tonight, polls don't vote, people do. And this is a great example of that. So no one should feel comfortable here. We should wait until the numbers fully come in and make that determination when someone hits that magic 270.
Jimbo, have you been in this position before where it looks like suddenly it's starting to go in one direction, then a few hours later it all changes again?
2000?
Yes, I remember
with
that.
Al Gore, which did not end well when the Supreme Court decided to interject themselves. Look, I think that there are a lot of factors in this campaign that are even outside of these candidates. When you have the Republican Party and the Trump campaign even outwardly saying that they have a very specific strategy to suppress African American votes. That's despicable. No, it's despicable what has happened. I believe it because it's legislated. They did it in North Carolina. They have done it in other early voting states to make early voting less accessible as far as how many polling places. They've shortened the number of days for early voting. This is not democracy in the way that America should be promoting democracy, and we really are going to have to assess how we deal with these types of tactics. But look, the issue that we're dealing with right now is the same as it was before the votes started being counted. Donald Trump has a harder path to 270. As the states in the West start to come in, again, he is going to have to run the court. He's going to have to be perfect, and I doubt that's going to happen.
But he clearly had a message that got over to sufficient numbers of people to make some of these races very tight, whatever the final outcome.
It's certainly not hard to get your message out when you dominate the airwaves and in ways that, I remember the day that Hillary Clinton put out her mental health plan, a very specific, detailed, comprehensive policy to deal with the rising suicide rates and how serious this issue is in the country. And the media in the U.S. didn't cover it at all. It was despicable. Something has to change. I think in 2012, we talked about this a lot in the U.S. media. There has been this conversation around the Republicans did this autopsy. They needed to expand their party, and Donald Trump went in a different direction. I do think the media is going to have to do its own autopsy to really look at how they covered this race and basically gave Donald Trump just an open platform to...
And yet he spent the whole time bashing the media and saying the media is to blame. So, I mean... Well, there you go. Maybe apart from looking at the media, they need to look at the way politics is being conducted in this country.
I would absolutely agree with that. But at the same time, you're saying master manipulator of the media. But when it came to Hillary Clinton and her numerous scandals, we didn't see any of that covered on mainstream media. Outside of Sky News sister network. Let me finish. Outside of a Sky News sister network, Hopkins channel here in the United States, and Fox News and those like more the conservative platforms, we didn't see a lot of these things covered. I'm not talking about all of the WikiLeaks, but some of the things like she got paid or her husband, family got paid, or what was it, a $12, $13 million speaking fee for McCain? I mean, these are things that we heard on some of these other mainstream networks. The fact that a number of the donors to the Clinton Foundation expected favors, governmental favors for their money. We didn't see much of that covered in the mainstream media.
I mean, in a way, what you're telling me, both of you, is that the one thing that really didn't get covered a lot was issues and policies, and it ended up as being mudslinging and characteristics and characters.
But that's what's sexy in this election cycle in any
And electing the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the entire planet, should not be about what is sexy. It should be about who is substantive, who has a plan, who has a vision. One of the things that was so appalling to me was when Donald Trump was at any point asked about his plan for cybersecurity, his answer was horrifying. And his inability to even reflect any sort of specific or coherent thought. And he got a pass on that. But that's not acceptable.
I'm just going to dive in because Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, is currently speaking, and he's in Minnesota. Let's just have a listen.
And that is the fact that I get to celebrate this evening with the people here in this room. You know, I way outkicked my coverage. and my better half, Jana. Our kids, my daughter Liza. Our boys, Charlie and Sam. My sister Janet. My brother-in-law Bill. My nephew Matt. My brother Tobin and sister-in-law Oakley are here with us tonight. We have a number of office holders here as well. We have members of the State Assembly, the State Senate. Congratulations on your races. We look forward to hearing from you tonight. Well-deserved races, all of you. Congratulations. You've heard me say this before. I'm a fifth-generation native of this town, Janesville, Wisconsin. I've lived here almost my entire life. I've known most of you for years, if not decades. We have grown up together. We share this community together. It's a great place and a wonderful state and the best country God ever created. And I am so eager to get back to work for you, to get on with fixing our country's problems. We have so much potential in this country, so much potential. for America. This could be a good night for us. Fingers crossed. Like you, I'm eager to watch. There are a lot of races we want to watch. Ron Johnson's race, all the others. There are races we want to watch. So like you, I'm eager to watch the rest of the evening. I'm eager to enjoy this evening with you. So thank you so much for coming out. God bless you all. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.
So Paul Ryan there, Speaker of the House, just having a few words there about the campaign so far, and we are hearing Fox News are predicting that Hillary Clinton will be junior. We've been waiting for that for quite a long time. No other network has projected on that one at the moment, so we'll leave it hard there as a possible Clinton winning in Virginia according to Fox. Let's just catch up with Todd here. So any second now it is going to be 2 o'clock in the UK at 10 o'clock, sorry, it's 3 o'clock in the UK, and we're going to see another 4 states which are with a couple of really vital ones there. Nevada's going to be the one of the next round everything closed that we think is up in the air, but it's another one of these. A couple days ago, a couple hours ago, we thought we'd probably go Democratic early voting, looked good in terms of a large Latino population voting. Sky has pegged Trump wins Montana, that's off the projection there. Yeah, Montana won't be surprising, Idaho won't be surprising. Utah, maybe it's interesting in terms of who gets second, but we'll probably expect Trump to carry that statement. But Nevada is one of these, it's been trending more Democratic, but it's still been a toss-up state in the last few elections. But it's, Trump has a base in Nevada to some extent. It's key to it's one of the ones he has to flip. We've been talking about the states, either the upper Midwest or Nevada would be one of the ones that Obama has carried that you need to flip. Yeah, in Michigan, we still haven't heard about how Michigan's gone there. Well, we've heard quite a lot. I mean, we've talked about North Carolina and Florida in the last few minutes quite a lot, but one of the other battleground states that we haven't mentioned for about an hour is Ohio, which is always absolutely vital. Currently too close to call. Our correspondent Lisa Holland is in Cincinnati. Hi, Lisa. What's the mood there?
Yeah, the mood is pretty tense actually, and people are saying that we could be in for a very long night here because the exit polls are showing both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump on 47% in this state. And just looking at some of the latest figures actually, for the number of votes counted so far, Donald Trump is on 53% of the votes and Hillary Clinton is on 42%. To help shed a bit more light on this, I thought we'd meet Jeff Kramer. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. You're a polling expert. You're also a Democrat as well. But first of all, just talk us through what happens if the result comes in and it is a 47-47. What happens next?
Well, I mean, it seems like we're for a long night. Anything within a half percentage point in any state will trigger an automatic recount. So and that would be a terrible scenario, but that could put us into days and weeks out. So
if there is a recount, and as you say, days and weeks, could there not be another recount within the next few hours? Why would you think?
What recounts is, unfortunately, in the United States, we dealt with this in 2000, and that comes to gathering up all the paper ballots, and it just takes some time. So if there's a recount, we're going to be talking days and weeks.
I mean, that's quite an incredible thing, isn't it? Do you think it's going to come to this? I mean, as we've been sort of saying as a kind of election trivia for days now, this is a state which is always voted. However, the state has voted for the person or the party that has got to be president. I think on virtually every occasion since 1960, when it was Kennedy and Nixon. Do you think it's going to be this time?
Yes, this is Ohio. We're used to calling elections, and it's almost always tight. Yes, I did absolutely expect Ohio to be tight, and it is.
And out and about, I mean, you're a Democrat. We know that Donald Trump was really getting the message out, wasn't he? And he came into Cincinnati just last week when he promised to build you guys a brand new bridge between Kentucky and Ohio.
divided country right now. So I think there are very few swing voters, and I think that you'll find, I'm not finding a lot of Democrats that find Donald Trump clever at this juncture.
Could there be a kind of hiccup, if you like, and that rule that this state always votes in line with whoever gets the presidency? Might that not be the case? Because people are starting to suggest that the demographics in this state have changed, and this might be the first time in a long time that Ohio doesn't get it right.
That is certainly true. Ohio has grown older. We've lost some younger voters. That has hurt the Democrats' chances. And we've lost some manufacturing jobs here in Ohio. And surprising to me, but I have to say that has given Donald Trump some inroads into Ohio that were not present before.
Just being out and about over the last couple of days, the way it's put by somebody that I was talking to yesterday, they were saying, look, I don't want Donald Trump for my son-in-law, but I would vote for him as president. And that's quite shocking.
To me it is. I mean, to me, Donald Trump is crass and unpresidential, and I can't believe that he's made this far, that it's election year and we're still talking about him. So I am surprised and shocked that we're still here.
As a Democrat, do you acknowledge the failures of Hillary Clinton to really reach out and get her message out in the Midwest? And she's obviously very popular in Washington, she's very popular in New York, and other places, but the Democrats are simply anti-touch with mass swathes of America.
I'm a Democrat because we represent working Americans, we represent working people. After this election, it's clear that we're going to have to go and re-examine that and find ways to reconnect with those people who should be our base.
And also to talk us through what we've been looking at, the percentage of the votes counted so far in Ohio. Now I understand that of the votes counted so far, 53% for Hillary Clinton, 42% for Hillary Clinton and 53% for Donald Trump. But you don't think that's as straightforward as it sounds? That some votes come in a lot earlier, people have been voting here for a couple of days.
In the state of Ohio, urban votes usually come in late because there are much more dense areas, a higher percentage of people living together. So normally in Ohio, the urban areas come in late, and they should all be Hillary Clinton supporters.
And do you think that she can do it here? What's in your heart of hearts? I mean, you say yes, but I mean, you've been worried, haven't you?
Oh, everybody is frightened at the prospect of a Donald Trump presidency, but I've always believed that Hillary Clinton can and will take Ohio, and I still believe that.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Well, you heard it there from Jeff. We could be in for a very long night, and we could still be here in a few weeks' time. If it does play out, as the exit polls are showing, that it's dead here in Ohio at the moment. Jeremy, back to you in New York.
Don't worry, we'll send food parcels in, Lisa, if you're still there in a couple of weeks. Let's bring you a couple of those we're calling. We're calling Montana to Trump. Sky's calling Montana to Trump. And we're also calling Missouri to Trump. And Clinton, Sky now calling New Mexico. So let's head over to that part of the world, keeping an eye on that region for us. Is Nick Martin in Phoenix, Arizona. So interesting, that part of the world. We're starting to get results from your region, Nick.
Yes, that's right. Sky now in the last few minutes calling New Mexico for Hillary Clinton. That will certainly excite the Democrats. It is in a part of the world down here they have been fighting very hard for. But the mood here in this Republican Watch Party at the Grand Hyatt here in downtown Phoenix is gradually warming up as they're seeing these results come in. Around the corner, of course, Nevada, those polls have just closed within the last 8 minutes. We'll be very keenly watching that in the next few hours. Of course, here in Arizona, it is a swing state, a fierce battleground state. The polls closed an hour and a few minutes ago. They've got another 11 electoral votes to contribute to the mix, because at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to the Electoral College vote. And here there's a quiet confidence actually in the last hour that Trump will be able to take Arizona. But what would be remarkable is if Hillary Clinton does, because that's the change that we would begin to see here on the southern border of the United States. Places like Arizona,
gold campaign. And on the floor, when we speak to people, there is a confidence here, whether it's well-founded or not, that the Republicans will take Arizona. Of course, 11 of the last 12 presidential elections have been Republican here, so a Democrat win here would be hugely significant. And every now and again, as we watch these results coming in, there are tears from the crowd here. Food, a lot of drink, a lot of red, a lot of Trump caps, a lot of Trump t-shirts, eyes down here on what will happen in Arizona. And I've been speaking to people the last few days in this state. Some people down in Tucson and further down in cities like Dallas, right on the border, key areas which Donald Trump has been talking about building a wall, etc. And Latino American urge today, Representative, get out, trying to have some kind of political insurgency against Donald Trump. Told that that's been a huge increase in Latino American vote. We can't be sure yet until we start seeing some exit polls coming out of Arizona, just the effect that that vote will have. Latino Americans in this part of the world traditionally not turned out in very big numbers. This year could see a huge difference, and that's all about reacting to Donald Trump's stance against immigration, his calls to build a wall, his hard line on reversing a lot of what President Obama's administration has done for undocumented immigrants, wants to deport up to 14 million undocumented immigrants. Well, that is not going down well in places like southern Arizona, where a lot of families crisscross across the border. So we will perhaps see the effect of all of that talk during the last weeks of the presidential election. We may well start to see the effect that has in places like Arizona. Here, there's hardly these downtown Phoenix. You get the feeling that they're quietly confident. We shall see.
Thanks very much, Nick. Let's bring you the latest from Ohio. There's traffic showing you the latest. There's 70% of the votes in Ohio. Trump 53.1, Clinton 42.5, other candidates 4.4. So, interesting there. Still 30% to come in. Let's head over to Pennsylvania. Mark Stone is in that key bellwether state. Mark's in Johnstown. How are they feeling there? What does it feel like? Any indication it'll be a much slower vote there, presumably because everybody voted on the day?
Yes, everyone voted today, no early voting, which meant that people were making those choices in the full knowledge of the FBI's decision to drop any investigation into Hillary Clinton. Of course, that's not the case in many states. I have to say, among the Clinton supporters that we've been talking to tonight, their confidence has been yo-yoing, pretty confident earlier on in the evening, a little less confident as the night has gone on. The latest figures I can bring you is that statewide now, 42% of districts have been counted, have declared effectively. That is putting Hillary Clinton at 49%, almost 50% of the vote, and Donald Trump at 46% of the vote. Don't forget, Democratic support is strong, always has been historically, the eastern and western flanks of this state. Those big cities like Pittsburgh in the west, Philadelphia in the east. It's the heartland, the area where we are now, where things get a little bit more complicated. Let's take you down here.
I don't know, like she supports workers. She will stand up for the working person. And the Republicans have proven that any people that get in front of them for a worker, and if you're going to build America, you got to start with the worker. You got to start with that businessman, the billionaire, don't care what something costs. But me, when I got to go to the mall, buy something, I got to earn enough money to be able to do that and pay my bills. So that's why I'm for Hillary Clinton. That's she is for the worker.
And you disagree?
Well, I do agree with it. Honestly, I do. Because
voted for Trump.
I did vote for Trump. Because I did not want Hillary Clinton being the president of the United States. Because she's corrupt. She's had 30 years to do something and she's done nothing. And I was going to
agree that if Putin and Trump actually sit at a table, they can negotiate. She hasn't
had 30 years. She's only been a senator. She's been a politician's wife. She's been a senator since what, 2000? Right. Okay. She was a senator in 2000. Then Secretary of State. It didn't go nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Appreciate it. Let's just remind you that already the markets around the world, those that are open or aware, are slightly jittery about market uncertainty. They don't like each other.
No, they don't at all. And just have a look at this chart of the Mexican peso, and you can see, I should remind you, this is the dollar against the peso, and so anything going that way is the dollar getting stronger and the peso getting weaker. And right now it is down, have a look at this, by over 10%. This does feel a lot like the fall in the pound that we saw on the 23rd of June. A very big fall indeed from the Mexican peso. In fact, to the stage now where it is at its weakest in history against the dollar. That's happening now on financial markets. Also, we're starting to see equity markets responding. We're starting to see the HANG SENG, that's the Hong Kong index, down by about 2%. The Nikkei in Japan down by a little bit more than that. Futures, S&P futures, so that's a future contract for what's going on in the US stock market, down very sharply as well. Markets are reacting to this, and they're reacting to the map that we've been showing you over the course of this evening, and the fact that things are looking a lot better for Donald Trump than any of the pollsters had expected at the start of this evening. And just kind of consider a few things. Let's go through just a few scenarios here, because we haven't yet heard from some of these states over here. But what we do know is that, for instance, California, Oregon, Washington, they are pretty safe for the Democrats. So there are some states that would push up Hillary Clinton's state. You see that 183 at the top. She needs to get to 270 if she wants to win. Donald Trump needs to get to 270 if he wants to win. The electoral college, and what matters is all of these votes that they get in the electoral college from these different states. But what happens if we include some of those states which are kind of seen as pretty surefire bets for each of the sides? Then you start to see Hillary Clinton actually edging ahead. Can you trust any of these polls anymore, given that the results seem to be coming through in a different direction? But let's add on Florida for Donald Trump. Let's add on Georgia for Donald Trump, both of which are looking pretty good for him, and you see him starting to catch up. Let's add on Pennsylvania. There's a chance there that he might well start to do well in Pennsylvania as well. So we add on Pennsylvania too as well. So things start to improve for Donald Trump. The big question, of course, is over here. We've been talking about it just moments ago. Let me kind of clear out Pennsylvania there. 20 electoral college votes in Pennsylvania. You've got 16 in Michigan. That's Michigan up there. And these states, Ohio as well, are going to be incredibly important for both of these candidates. And that's before we've started to think of what happens in Nevada, what happens in Arizona. But what we know is this is incredibly close, and we need to hear what's going to happen in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. It's no coincidence that those are states which are still waiting for results in North Carolina as well. So that's looking better for Donald Trump than it did in those exit polls. It's looking a lot tighter, and it's looking like this night is going to go on for quite some time, because these results are very different from what the pollsters expected. It's going to be a tight race.
Ed, thanks very much indeed. The world's attention may be focused on New York tonight, but of course the real prize is the White House itself, Washington, and a bulk is very close by.
Yes, indeed, and it is fascinating, Jeremy. Just to take one other media organisation, the New York Times is running a live results forecast, and it's got now an 80% probability that Donald Trump will win the presidency, and it's also saying there is a greater than 95% Hillary count. If there is a recount of his fake races here and there, I'm still confident she will be elected president. And but this is a surprise. I'm a 74-year-old man, so I guess I've seen it all now. You cast your vote, did you, for Hillary? Oh yes, I did. Yes. And was that difficult? Yes, it was. But I didn't go on budgetary issues, balanced budget, and strong national defense. Actually, Hillary ran as the fiscal conservative because she would allow some tax increases and some spending cuts. And I'm very concerned about we found the platform issues, and aside from all the personalities things. And also on the immigration issue of trimming a cap, the Western states want to have more immigrants, but some would say, well, that's the Chamber of Commerce wanting cheap employees. But in fact, there's a divide. We're pretty divided in that. But on the issues, I agree more with Clinton, and I believe she's going to pull, in spite of what everybody's saying right now. Well, it's rather than the FTC have just pulled a higher perhaps that was expected, but we weren't expecting Florida, maybe North Carolina, to be quite as big as them. No, he's the one, he has gotten, he's making a very strong showing, and I would not have seen this. So, let me say that this old man could be wrong in his judgments, but I still think Hillary's going to pull it out. If she doesn't, what will President Donald Trump do from there? Well, we almost took the president, and I think that the country, whoever is elected president, the country will have to come together behind them on an old-fashioned, modern Republican in the U.S. And that's my view of it. So I'm for Hillary. I still think she'll win, and but if she doesn't, by some chance, we'll pull together and work together as a nation. Scott News is colored with the fact that from the National Electoral of Ohio. I look pretty subject to go forward Donald Trump, and as they say, tends to be the key for a Republican candidate. Well, if that's true, then I kind of have to say that this old man made a misjudgment. But I would still support Hillary on the issues, and I'm glad that I did, and I'm proud that I did. You describe yourself as a modern Republican. Do you think there is still a place for modern Republicans? Well, it's tough going, because our friend Kirk lost in Illinois. He's a modern Republican. I find that I'm not welcome at most Republican meetings anymore. I was considered a very moderate, conservative, standard Republican for 18 years in the Senate. And but the party's not too far to the right for me. And I'm a free trader also. So what will you do? Heck, the Democrats told me no, I think I'll kind of take an independent approach to life. But I haven't counted Hillary out yet. And I haven't come to a recount or to some states being a close count. The organization is so much better than the Trump organization. Why is it happen that someone like you said the party re-elected Republican from another time? Well, on something like the free trade issue is gone for one thing. The fact that we do need to trade in this world, and we can't just retreat and retreat to a lot of rhetoric. I felt that Hillary Clinton was more courageous in sticking that. Also, very frankly, we're going to have to increase taxes in our country to pay for all the things around the world we're doing. And she is increasing the estate tax and some other taxes. That's a very responsible thing to do. Probably not one that got very many votes. How many astonishing things that Donald Trump has placed in well, that seems very strange to me. He would be elected president, but apparently it's happening, and I'm very much for Hillary. I think she's going to reach it out yet. Right. Okay, just finally, do you think she's going to reach it out? What is the policy? Well, it's several small states that she will win in West and Midwest California, Nevada, if it comes through. I don't know how Nevada. I did some survey work in Nevada. But I believe that she still has a path to winning it. And if it comes to a deadlock or a recount, she has better machinery on the ground to eke it out. It's got to be a long night. Thank you very much indeed. Jeremy, thanks for your time, Brad. Yes, this is enough.
Very much indeed, Adam. We're going to take you straight out to the streets with Kay Burley, who's travelling around the city tonight speaking to voters. Let's join her down in Times Square, right behind me.
Yep, thanks very much indeed. As Hillary scrabbled the lines for those electoral college votes, there is a palpable tension here in Times Square, hugely democratic NYC. But 29 electoral votes actually, so a lot of these people here would have voted for Hillary, but that's not the way it looks like it's going. And many of them are looking up and seeing this huge screen that is right in the centre here of Times Square, predicting and also illustrating the votes as they come through. The New York Times presently saying that Donald Trump has an 80% chance of being the next president of the United States. We've got an expert who can come and talk to us about it in more detail. Peter Beiner, contributing editor of The Atlantic and associate professor of journalism and political science. TJ, at City University of New York, that's where I can't do it. They must be some business cards. So, going Trump's way?
It looks like it. We still have some states in the West, but so far the trend is really directing one of the most significant and most dangerous in America.
Wow, why do you say that?
We're heading off the cliff. So we really have never had someone like Donald Trump as president. That's a basic understanding of where our constitution works. It doesn't have to respect and threat journalists, violence, state voters, vulnerable minorities. Imagine waking up tomorrow in the United States and you're an American, or if you're American, or if you're disabled American, or if you're African American facing Donald Trump sports. If it's cold and Donald Trump wins, we have a new world. I don't recognize
something said about George W. Bush and perhaps Ronald Reagan before him.
George W. Bush and Ronald Reagan took the ideas to the right, but they existed within the spectrum of American politics that we understood. Their agenda was a conservative agenda, but they were tied to a certain philosophy that Americans were used to seeing in office, creating the size of tax cuts, how aggressive foreign policy. We've never had a president we now have a president who said during the campaign that he wants to ban Muslims from the United States. That's unacceptable. We have a president who has repeatedly expressed, who has bragged about his love of Portugal, who said he ordered the United States who has insulted disabled people, who has encouraged his protest supporters to attack protesters in the crowd. This is very different than George W. Bush or Ronald Reagan. In some ways, they may have laid the groundwork for this, but we genuinely do not know whether Donald Trump president is like that. I don't think the world knows.
Well, what we do know is that the American people will want if he's successful because, it's a democratic country.
That's true, but it's also very important to remember that democracy and liberalism are two very different things. Liberalism is not the idea that there are, individual rights and minority rights that are on the process. That's different than democracy. But the people come to trample on something that's so sacred to them. And Donald Trump is desperate in that direction.
Okay, now we're just calling Virginia. Does that change the landscape at all for you?
She needs Virginia. The race is not over at this point. She needs to hold the states in the Midwest that she was ready to win. Michigan, Wisconsin. If she wins those states, then really it goes to the West. Colorado and Nevada in particular will be a very, very close race. But if she breaks through in Michigan or in Pennsylvania, then it's probably his election.
What does this mean for the United States on the world stage?
We don't know. Donald Trump has threatened tariffs that could produce a massive trade war with China. He's threatened to build a wall that would fundamentally upend American relations with Mexico. He's suggested, that maybe America shouldn't be committed to NATO unless the other countries in NATO pay more money. This is Vladimir Putin's dream, right, of an America that basically is no longer committed to the Western alliance. And we genuinely don't know. Donald Trump is also so profoundly ignorant of politics. He didn't know what Brexit was days before. He didn't know what the nuclear triad. He didn't know that America has nuclear missiles on air, land, and sea. So who will actually make these decisions with such a profoundly ignorant man as our president? The mind boggles. I just don't know.
Even if Mrs. Clinton does win, it would be just narrowly, and this is a nation divided.
Deeply divided, deeply divided. It's divided along the lines of race in a very, very profound way. As the Latino and immigrant population has grown, we can see very powerful backlash, especially in white America. There's also a very profound division based on education. Again, much of this may sound familiar to British viewers. Donald Trump winning overwhelmingly among non-college-educated white voters, while Hillary Clinton is much better among college-educated voters. And there's something of an age differential as well. So this is now a global story that we're seeing playing out here. I have to say, I just have to come.
What does this mean for her if she loses? It's over. Her political career is over.
It's over, and I think also it shows the profound, deeply depressing resistance in the United States to electing a woman. Hillary Clinton's not nearly as rough.
Do you think it is about America will be President Trump? Too early to call as yet, Jeremy, but it's heading in that direction, is it not?
Well, there are certainly some changes. I'm a cautious man. I've seen too many of these elections before. So let's just tell you what Hillary Clinton has been tweeting in the last hour. The tone appears to be somber. There's this image. She says, "This team has so much to be proud of. Whatever happens tonight, thank you for everything." And just before I come to our panel here, we're noting that US crude futures have fallen 4%. Hong Kong stocks have plunged 3.27%. The Mexican peso is down 11.5%. All that apparently in reaction to the fact that Donald Trump is doing quite well. So, Todd, before I talk to John and Jim, how do you read the last half hour? It's been crazy and mazy and difficult to pin down. Well, it's great we have the subscription to these exit polls, because what has happened is, they're doing these in real time throughout the day, reweighting the numbers, and just a few minutes ago they reweighted the numbers for Ohio, and even with just 78% of votes counted, the numbers are starting to declare Ohio. But it still says, it's like a knife edge, but so we're declaring it based on that poll. This same margin we're seeing in Florida with like 95 or 99% of the votes counted. We're afraid to call it there. But I'm messing around with my map. If I have this map looking like the board we had up there, give Trump Florida, because he's got a pretty substantial lead. I'm not calling it up there. Let's just make that assumption based on the other calls.